Oh, my bad. I'm sorry, Mets fans. I didn't see you there. I'm on the Correa watch, just like all of you. And was that corny? Yes. And do I care? No. Regardless, how's it going, Mets and overall baseball fans? Happy New Year to you all. And no better way to have our first video of 2023 be on the topic of the same player we've discussed for basically 2 weeks now. And yes, Carlos Correa. So we got some latest updates on the Correa front to share with you outside of what we've already discussed endlessly in previous live streams, because we have covered the Correa saga to a T. How likely, unlikely is a deal to happen? When could it happen? And why both for Correa and the Mets' sake a deal needs to happen for more reasons than one, and how this type of relationship is truly a near perfect match. But before we get into it all I ask is, if you're new to the channel, don't hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe button. Thank you guys all so much for your endless support as always. And of course, I have to let you all know that today's show is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline is your #1 source for all your sports betting needs, so make sure you head over to betonline.ag using promo code Bleav at BLEAV. That way you get yourself a 50% off welcome bonus. BetOnline, it's where the games begin. And now, folks, let's let the show begin, because Carlos Correa, you all know the details by now. I'm not going to harp on him too much. Yes, the San Francisco Giants had a $350 million deal for him just 2 weeks ago. It fell through, and during that falling through process, the Mets swooped in. You see Steve Cohen in Hawaii sipping a martini, talking to Scott Boras nonchalant, like, yeah, let's go and get this guy finally. Locks him up to 12 years, $315 million. It breaks at 3 a.m. from Jon Heyman, as Steve Cohen already has reported comments from the deal happening with Jon Heyman to the media first, saying, we want this guy, we want him, now we got him, he is now a Met, and that is our missing piece. He takes us over the top. I broke it in the breaking news live stream at 3+ in the morning, because we're madmen as diehard Mets fans here covering the channel. And since then, now we've seen the Mets have that same issue with the Giants, with the physical, with that broken ankle from 2014. Now what has happened since then is really a whole lot of nothing. I mean, both sides have been silent with the media because they're not trying to disrespect each other. And I love the fact here that what we've seen, the difference from the Giants negotiations to the Mets, is that Scott Boras gave a hard deadline that we saw, obviously, to the Giants, saying, you know, we felt we gave you enough time to look at the physical. You want more time for the physical. We weren't doing it. We got on a call with Steve Cohen. We got a deal done. Now, Correa, who's been adamant about wanting to be a Met, according to Scott Boras, seeing how excited he is to play with his friend and former teammate for the World Baseball Classic, Team Puerto Rico, and Francisco Lindor. And he's even excited to shift to third base. Feels it's going to give him more longevity in the MLB at that position, more strength, can bulk up a little bit more, have more power in his swing. Who knows? Carlos Correa, 35 bomb type player. We might just get that with the Mets. Fingers crossed, should have happened. And more range with his defense from an arm strength type standpoint. So there's a lot of reasons as to why the Mets are getting more negotiation time from Boras here than the Giants, because it seems like the Giants, you know, rub Boras and Correa the wrong way, even though that, yes, $350 million is nothing to scoff at. But Correa really wants the Mets. Cohen really wants Correa, and Boras is well aware of that. So they're willing to take a $35 million pay cut on a year difference in contract, that being Boras and Correa, to come to Queens here. So now they're dealing with the same ankle issue, trying to make sure, is this going to be sustainable long term? That's the Mets' biggest concern, and rightfully so. He hasn't missed a game from the ankle injury back in 2014 from breaking his ankle, but he did have some numbness in the area while sliding into a bag back in September this past season with the Minnesota Twins. So long term, it seems like that's a big concern, and they want to get the fine print details hashed out. So the latest news and reporting actually is a little more interesting than what I initially thought, because I'm jumping back into this video after I originally recorded it, as new reports have come out, because the initial belief over the past couple days was a rumor swirling from a San Francisco report coming out over radio that, oh, the only reason why the Mets haven't signed Correa yet and finalized it is they have specific details of the contract that needs to be approved by the MLB and the MLBPA. And while it's true that normally with a contract of magnitude, especially the MLB and the MLBPA has to look at it, has a say, but because their offices are supposedly closed for the holiday up until January 3rd, which is tomorrow, that's the reason for the delay. This has been completely contradicted and refuted, rather, from Michael Marino, who does a great job as an independent baseball reporter. I've emphasized him plenty on the channel. He does a great job not only covering the MLB, but the Mets in particular. It's pretty much just said this, that no, that's not true. This rumor that's going around that this is the sole reason why a deal hasn't happened yet, that isn't the case. It's not because the MLBPA offices are closed. Now, this isn't a positive or a negative thing. He's just emphasizing that from what he knows, and he certainly has sources, I can tell you that much, is that yes, this is not the case. This is a fallacy. And I truly believe that from everything that's been out there, what we know is that this is a lengthy process. There's a lot of lawmakers involved. There's a lot of fine print going on in this contract. So regardless on if there is a quote unquote hold up, I honestly find that hard to believe too. Is Scott Boras Boras going to allow an actual holdup for a contract for something he's trying to get done desperately with Correa? You'd have to imagine that the language is all something that he's familiar with, as I'm about to expand here in a second. The Mets want insurance in case, say, Correa's ankle goes completely kaput 5, 6, 7 years down the line in that 12-year deal, because there's uncertainty, and if there's red flags here, it's for a good reason. We all know Cohen is adamant and is determined to get Correa, but he needs to make sure that there is financial protection long-term. And Scott Boras knows this. This isn't new news to him, as it was reported from Anthony Tacoma in his article earlier today on the beat for the Mets, said the following, that yeah, Boras has negotiated 2 contracts like this already in his career as an agent. Once in 2004 with Ivan Pudge Rodriguez on a 4-year, $40 million deal with the Detroit Tigers, which stated that if Ivan misses 30 to 35 plus days in the contract in either 2004 or 2005 due to injury, that contract can be entirely voided at a $5 million buyout. And a similar type of details were in JD Martinez's latest contract that we saw with the Red Sox at 5 years, $111 million with his right foot. But both of those weren't exercised because they stayed healthy enough during those time frames. But point is that Boras understands what it's like to have insurance fine print type clauses in a contract to benefit a team from a financial aspect, to make sure that they're not completely screwed. And if, say, his ankle, that being in Correa, is completely kaput 5+ years from now, that he's not sipping martinis in Hawaii by himself getting full bags without a problem. That should not happen, and the Mets are aware of that. But let's now get down to the brass tacks. Why this deal is so perfect for both sides and why it pretty much needs to happen. Let's start with the Mets. Again, I've talked about this endlessly, but I'll say it again. Steve Cohen has spoken publicly, was the first to break this news, essentially, talking with the media how much we wanted this guy. He even explained how upset he was when the Mets weren't getting him originally when he was signing that deal in San Francisco. He's upset. Apparently, the Mets were coming in at the 11th hour and couldn't get a deal done. They were too last minute with it. He really wanted Carlos Correa because it takes his team over the top. And when that news first came out at 3 a.m. almost 2 weeks ago, the Mets made over $1 million in sales with their tickets for this upcoming season in 2023. Yeah, a lot of Mets fans, including myself, are on the Carlos Correa hype train. We want him in Queens for good reason. So the Mets have done this great job at selling Carlos Correa to the fans for the most part. So, if it falls through, unless there's truly valid reasons from the medical standpoint, fans are going to be somewhat disappointed naturally with all this hype leading to nothing, okay? And then you have to add with the fact that, okay, you look at what Trey Turner signed with the Phillies, you look at the Padres getting Xander Bogaerts, and yeah, getting Fernando Tatis Jr. back this season, less than half a season away. There are a lot of big powerhouse teams in the NL alone. It's not going to get any easier. And the Braves, yeah, they're still really good. We're Dansby sponsor or not. The Mets getting a cornerstone player like Carlos Correa in this infield takes this team to new heights. You see the stat line. We all know how good Carlos Correa is. War-wise, he's been one of, if not the best infielder in baseball for years on end now. He is that good. He is between a 5, 6, 7 win player per season, which means that he alone is factoring into 5+ wins for the team that he plays for every single season. So a Mets team that, okay, let's say 100-win team heading into this upcoming season, projected-wise, they could be 105, 106 to north of 110. And again, regular season wins don't really matter to me. I just want them to make playoffs and actually dominate in playoffs. But that's what Carlos Correa brings also. He brings that championship pedigree. Not only a great fielder, a great bat, but knows what it takes to win. Cheating scandal aside, let's not forget what he did in 2021 with the Astros when they fell short in playoffs. Correa was still a beast. He has had some phenomenal playoff numbers post-cheating scandal, and that's another factor. You want a guy that's only 28 years of age, has so much to give for a team for the next upwards of 7+ years before he really starts to tail off in his career. Maybe he doesn't. We don't know. Maybe it's a Justin Turner situation, but you can get plenty production at that third base position for the next decade, like Justin Turner has for the Dodgers this past decade, up until now he signs with the Red Sox, and that's huge. You never know, right? But point is that for the Mets here, there's so many obvious reasons as to why a deal needs to get done, and I truly believe it will. And for Correa, I mean, look, you're talking about $350 million or $315 million. If both those contracts fall through, no one's signing you to a long-term $300 million deal this offseason. I just don't see it happening. I'm sure Correa knows that as well. So there's further reasons for him as to why he needs to get a long-term deal done now, because he betted on himself this past year with the Twins. Solid season overall, right? Very good, very productive. If he does another 1-year deal and say, God forbid, he gets hurt for this upcoming year with whatever team it may be, there goes that $300 million potential right down in the toilet. So he's going to be really pissed off at himself knowing what he could have had versus what he would currently having over the next plus years if he decides to be stubborn here and not get a deal done. Both sides want to get a deal done. They know that, and he wants to be a Met. He wants to be on a consistent contender. Yes, the bag is important money-wise, but being on a productive team, a team that's going to have so much hype, and embrace being a villain. You know, the new evil empire that's surely going to be the Mets with landing Correa. Correa is the guy that everyone loves to hate. Him in Queens will only make things that much more entertaining, and for him, he thrives off of being the enemy. There's just, again, endless reasons as to why this makes sense. Putting all my bias aside, at this point, I will be beyond surprised if a deal does not happen. It will happen, I truly believe. It's just a matter of when, and hopefully we will sooner than later find out. But Mets fans, I want to know all your thoughts in the comments below. How do you feel about the Carlos Correa Mets saga currently going on? When, if at all, do you expect the deal to happen? And overall, what is your excitement level going to be like should that same type of contract happen, or maybe slightly different with plenty of insurance, plenty of protection long-term with that ankle? Whatever it is, let me know it down below. As always, folks, and again, folks, if you found yourself enjoying this kind of Mets content and you want to see more great Mets content like this, don't hesitate from smashing that like and subscribe button. Thank you all so much for the endless support. Stay tuned. We'll be breaking news live stream when Correa decision happens. More podcasts coming out for Bleav in Queens. So much great content this offseason. I'll talk to you again real soon, folks. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out.